And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we are talking more undrafted free agents. And so we're going to be talking about the players that the Washington Commanders have signed. And then we're going to be talking about some players that have been invited to the rookie minicamp, along with some exciting news as the Washington Commanders are going to be opening a new stadium in 2030. So we'll be talking about that. And so before we go ahead and jump into the content for today, I first wanted to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin for lots of touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. So make sure that you go ahead, you hit that subscribe, you hit that like button, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. And so we are looking at undrafted free agents that the Washington Commanders have went out and signed now that the NFL draft is over. And so let's start with Fentrell Cypress, a defensive back, played for Florida State. He also went to the University of Virginia as well. And so just looking at, his stats. And so let's start with just the height, 6 feet, 188. And so definitely a player that I think has some length, perhaps has some range at the cornerback position. Definitely looks like a player that, showed that he's not afraid to come up and make some contact, especially just looking at some of his highlight clips as a tackler. But one of his better seasons with the University of Virginia, he had 39 tackles. He had 13 pass deflections as well. So, in on a lot of pass deflections there. In Florida State, the next season after that, he had 40 tackles. He had 28 solos, and he came back with 12 assists and 7 pass deflections there. And then in 2024, finished with 5 pass deflections and 8 solo tackles. But keynote there, 2022 had some good pass deflections. And like I said before, seems like a player that has some good length overall in his career, 125 tackles, 27 pass breakups as well. And he ran a 4.43 in his pro day as well. So he's definitely got some speed. And so next player that the Washington Commanders went out and signed here was Tre Rucker, a safety out of Oklahoma State. And so he initially played with Wake Forest, and I guess he transferred over here to Oklahoma State. And man, he was very productive. I mean, he's a guy that he seems like he's going to be a player that would definitely play downhill, definitely showed some physicality, definitely see the athleticism. Seems like he could be a defender that could be really or just have good range, I should say, so to speak. And so the numbers for him, especially over the last couple seasons with Oklahoma State, 100 tackles. He had 62 solos, 38 assists. He had 1 pass deflection. He also had 1 forced fumble and 1 INT. And then 2024, he had 84 total tackles, 53 solos, 31 assists, 1 pass deflection, and he also had 2 INTs as well. So the production was there. I think it's going to be interesting to see, if he can perhaps make the team, because if you look at some of the highlights, like I said, he looked very good. Looks like a player that certainly would fit what the Washington Commanders want to do on the defensive side of the ball. And so next up, the next player that the Washington Commanders went out and signed here as an undrafted free agent here was Allay Kao. And so Allay Kao, he's a linebacker that played for UCLA. He also transferred into UCLA. And the one thing about him is that I think he's going to be a special team specialist, because he had 4 punt blocks in his college career. I did get a chance to see one of the highlights where it was just an outstanding punt block. And so he just has a knack for getting to the football, on punts. And so, look, that is something that absolutely would translate to any team in the National Football League. If you're talking about a player that can block punts and didn't really flip the field like that, especially, for an offense like the Washington Commanders, who obviously had it going last season. We know that this team is going to be even better this upcoming season. And so anytime you're talking about that type of advantage in the special teams game, I'm curious to see if he can also find a way to make the roster as well. Because again, being a special team specialist, certainly you're talking about not only punts, he can come down on the kickoffs. You could put him in there for maybe a field goal block as well if he's a specialist. And so that is kind of the profile with him. And so next, I wanted to go ahead and start to look at some players that they got invited to the rookie minicamp. And so when you're talking about invites to the rookie minicamp, what that means is that the undrafted players, they get a chance to come down to the 3-day camp where you can basically get a taste of what it's like to be in camp. But more importantly, you get a chance to, learn the team system. You get a chance to meet the coaches. You get a chance to really show off your skills. And then from there, you're hopefully looking to get an invite to training camp. And so we definitely have some notable names. And so let's start with the first name on the list here, and that is going to be Gabe Taylor out of Rice. And so Gabe Taylor, he is the brother of Sean Taylor, one of my favorite players. May he rest in peace. But, man, Gabe Taylor, when I'm looking at his highlights and then looking at his production, man, this guy looks like he's just a playmaker. So at safety, 5'10", 190. And the first thing that I love, man, was the speed. I think that is something that certainly will translate, and you could see the athleticism, but just the productions. Look, 58 total tackles in 2023. He had 39 solos, 19 assists. He had 8 pass deflections, 1 sack, 1 fumble, 2 INTs. Then he came back in 2024, had 52 total tackles, 34 solos, 18 assists, 6 pass deflections, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 INTs. I mean, this guy competes, man. And so, look, he is certainly a guy that out of all the signings, like, I am definitely rooting for Gabe Taylor to make the Washington Commanders. So I hope that this happens. I'm looking forward to just seeing what happens here as the rookie minicamp gets ready to take off. And so next player that the Washington Commanders are bringing in to the rookie minicamp is going to be Jacoby Jones, a wide receiver out of UCF. And so with him, he started off with, I guess, the University of Ohio. His first year in 2022, he had 45 receptions, 776 yards, and a 17.2 average and 6 touchdowns. Didn't necessarily have the most productive season in 2023, but came back in 2024. UCF, he had 22 receptions, 327 yards, 14.9 was the average, and 2 touchdowns. So initially, when I was just looking at a couple of his little highlights there, it looks like that he's a guy that maybe he could win, over the middle of the field. Seems like he'd be a player that is going to sit down into the zones, maybe be quarterback friendly. And so let's see what happens. I think that there is definitely a lot of opportunity with the Washington Commanders to really get a spot at the wide receiver position, especially, if you can be pretty versatile and do some different things. And so I did see that one of his highlights, he was catching the football out of the screen game. And so that is something that absolutely the Washington Commanders do a lot of. And so hopefully he can find a way to maybe get invited back for the training camp. And so next up, the Washington Commanders also went out and they got Keegan Jones. And so Keegan Jones, he's a running back out of UCLA. And Keegan Jones, with him, he is really, I think, a special teams type of player. You're going to see a player that if you go Google him, you'll see that he was a guy that was in on the kick returns and things like that. So immediately you see a guy that can be a special teams ace for you. Next, a lot of the things that I saw with him, it was he was lined up in the shotgun, and it was like a zone type of read that they were giving him the football. And so he's a running back, and he's also a kick returner. And then from what I'm seeing, he also played a little bit of slot receiver for UCLA. And so this guy just seems like he could just be, maybe a playmaker that you use on situational downs. Certainly, I think that the fact that he can play special teams is something that is certainly intriguing, because you can get on the field immediately if you're good at that. And I like that in some of his kick return highlights, he gets straight up and down the field. So let's see what happens if he can possibly maybe get an invite back to camp as well. And so lastly, we have Maurice Smith. And so Maurice Smith he's out of Florida State. And so he is a center. And with him, look, he's got some great size. Definitely looks like that he can pick up moving defenders is some of the things that I'm reading about him on his NFL draft profile, excuse me. So that's good to see. Some of the weaknesses that they talk about, really probably needs to refine the footwork, a little heavy footed there. So that's something that he would have to work on. But, for the most part, seems like he was a pretty productive player while at Florida State. He gave up 12 QB hurries, 2 hits, and 2 sacks, I believe, in his last season. Has some good burst, and again, can handle a moving defender, which is exactly what you're going to face at the next level, especially when they start to run these stunts and stuff like that at you. And so it seems like footwork and being consistent is going to be really the stepping stone that he's going to have to take at the next level. So let's see if he can also work his way back to the training camp. And so we'll see what happens there. And so with that being said, look, that is all the undrafted free agents, and then also to the players that have been invited to the rookie camp. Now, the exciting information that we found out is that the Washington Commanders are set to go back home. And so right now we're looking at an image of the old RFK, or RFK, excuse me. And this is the over top view of RFK. And so it looks like that the new arena is going to have a ceiling on it. So that is one thing. But man, it looks terrific, just from the initial image of it. And so, super excited about this new stadium. I just think that with this new stadium, it goes hand in hand with the direction of the team, because I think that this team is trending in the right direction. And I think that this is the most excitement that we've had around this team, maybe since this team was at RFK. And I'm starting to think back of when we had Art Monk, when we had Darrell Green. I'm talking about Joe Gibbs. I'm talking about Joe Jacoby. I'm talking about Ernest Biner, Mark Ripien. Like, it just brings back those type of memories, and it has that type of feel with the Washington Commanders going back to RFK. And so I cannot wait to see what the stadium is going to look like. Like I said before, it's supposed to have, I believe, a ceiling on it. So I don't know the full details about it, but I also think that they are going to be rebuilding a lot of different things around the stadium. So that is going to be fun to see. But the key is that it is set to open up in 2030. So I cannot wait to see the Washington Commanders' new stadium back in RFK, where so many memories were made, so much winning was done as well. And so that is why I think that this is huge, for, the city. It's huge for the team as well, like I said, because it is trending right back to that type of feeling with those teams that had a lot of success. And so let's hope that we get there this season. And so anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking here about this new stadium. Let me know too what you guys are thinking about some of these players that we talked about. We just talked about Gabe Taylor, and how he's going to be invited to the rookie mini camp. And then also too, we got some undrafted free agents that the Washington Commanders have signed. And, like I said, some of these players we'll see, if they can definitely carve out a role for themselves and really try to make an impact for this team. But it's super exciting to see what the Washington Commanders have done in the draft, and then also too outside of the draft. So let me know what your thoughts are. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.